Hello, everyone. It's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Thank you for joining me in my little channel here. I wanted to have a more of a chatty type of video with you. No big life changes right now. The sticker shop announcement was probably the last big life announcement for me, but I wanted to come on here and have a quick chat about something that I think a lot of us in the fountain pen hobby or any type of hobby that requires any type of spending. And I say require, I don't mean require, but I mean that does involve spending and some consumerism. And I was wondering about the whole premise of no spends. We've all probably done it once or twice. Does a no spend really work? I have, over the years in this hobby, tried to create different ways of being able to not consume too much, because it's very true that we can all get really caught up in all the limited editions, special editions, new releases, because we are constantly bombarded with new releases all the time. And in the position that I'm in with my channel, I know that I'm also part of that. But what I wanted to really think about and talk about a little bit more is the idea of no spends. Are they helpful, harmful? How do you feel about them? And when I thought of this idea to discuss in one of my videos, I was a little, well, I don't actually have any notes going into this. I don't have an iPad here with the points that I want to cover. It was really, I just wanted to get certain things off of my mind in terms of what no spends are. And I think it also goes back to the overall budget that we have, or the financial situation that we're in when we get into the fountain pen hobby. And everyone who gets into this hobby has different life situations, different financial situations, different budgets, different tastes. And not everyone wants to do a no spend or go into a no spend, or they may not need to go into a no spend, or their buying habits may be different, that they don't need to do something like a no spend. I liken or relate a no spend to something like when you tell yourself that you can't have, for example, chocolate. If you have, like me, been doing any type of weight loss or trying to be healthy or exercise or anything like that throughout your entire life, you know that trying to limit or even completely eliminate a certain type of food from your diet is something that you've probably done once or twice or a couple more than a few times. What I found over the years, what I've learned about myself, is that when you try to eliminate or restrict something from your everyday, it becomes something that you think about more. It's like that example. If you tell yourself not to think about a chocolate bar, you're immediately going to start thinking about a chocolate bar. I think a no budget is the same thing to some people. Basically, the caveat for this whole conversation is that this is not going to apply to everybody, and that's okay. But with a no spend, you're basically telling yourself that for a certain amount of time, you cannot spend any money on stationery, on fountain pens, on inks, whatsoever. And the reasoning behind that could be a multitude of things, such as you want to slow down on your consumption, you want to save money, you want to be able to pay off some of the credit card that you've just spent. So there's different reasons why people go into a no spend. And if you've ever done a no spend for yourself, please let me know down in the comments below whether, what was the reason for it, how long was a no spend for, and was it successful for you, and what made it successful. For me personally, I find no spends difficult because when I restrict myself from something, there's almost that rebellious part of me that says, no, why are you telling me that I can't have something? When you tell me I can't have something, that's when I want it. No spends for me don't categorically work because of that premise. But I know some people who can do a no spend for a month and be really good and be able to stick to that. But then what happens is, in the month or even the week following that no spend, you're like, great, I now have no restrictions. I'm going to go ahead and spend. And in that time that you were supposed to be doing a no spend, did you actually learn anything about your spending habits or your buying rules for yourself? So I found that it was just this cycle of no spend for a certain time, then a lot of spending because I had restricted myself so much, and then having to do another no spend. And it was just this never ending cycle. Similar to if I was ever going to restrict myself from eating something, it was that cycle of I can't have it for a certain amount of time. And then as soon as I'm allowed to have it again, I just want all of it, a lot of it. And I think no spends can be very, very similar. And I did look into actually a couple of Reddit threads and saw that there were some people who were thinking about it as well, about no spends and whether or not they were helpful or harmful or what it is that they actually do for you. And one of the things that I was able to take from all of that is that no spends don't necessarily teach you about healthy spending or how to properly budget for your hobby. It's that never ending cycle of restrict and binge, which is not healthy, but also it just keeps going and it just keeps going. And it really doesn't give us a chance to understand our buying habits, but also why we're buying. That's kind of why I wanted to have this discussion, is because I haven't done a no spend for myself for 2025. I had a video earlier on this year where I had some buying rules for myself, but these rules are something that I've actually had in place for at least a year or so, especially when it came to any fountain pen purchases. I wanted to really be intentional about what I was purchasing and why I was purchasing it, but also making sure that I was sticking to a budget. But also, for example, if I had a pen that I really wanted that was a little out of my price range, I would actually sell a couple of my pens to be able to fund that. There's that as well. But what I've been doing for 2025 is not necessarily a no spend, but just seeing how long I can go without making a stationery or fountain pen purchase. That's actually really worked well for me because it's almost challenging myself to be like, oh, you know what? I haven't purchased anything in 7 days. How long can I go for? Versus, oh, I've got another 3 weeks to go before I can purchase anything. It was almost this challenge for myself of how good can I be rather than counting down to how long I have to restrict myself for. I've actually been keeping track of that in my Hobonichi weeks, keeping track of my no stationary spend. And it's a no spend in a sense, but it wasn't one that I set for myself beforehand. It wasn't one that I said I'm going to no spend for 2025. It was one of those where in my head, it was how long can I go without actually buying anything? So it wasn't a set rule of I have to do a no spend for a certain amount of time. It's how long can I challenge myself before I actually buy anything stationery wise. And it's worked for me really well this year. And the reason for that is because there aren't any arbitrary rules for myself, or I don't make myself feel guilty if I do have a purchase. And I think that's a really key thing as well when it comes to our buying habits and our spending habits is if you're starting to feel guilty about your purchase, why is that? Is it because you have purchased too much? You've maybe spent too much? You still have a few things that you haven't unboxed or even played with or used yet. There's a few things there that tie into that feeling of guilt. And I was really getting sick of feeling guilty about a hobby that should bring me joy. I needed to study, first of all, why I wanted to buy specific pens, specific inks, and really dig into, do I need this? Why do I want to buy it? But also, the main thing that helps me when choosing to purchase something is it a BAM? And my friend Katie and I have this I don't know what to call it, this measure where we don't really purchase any fountain pens unless it's a BAM, meaning that it is like a 10 out of 10 on the oh gosh, you know what? We've done this so long that it just feels like it's innate now. But 10 out of 10 on the price, the availability, the pen itself, like the model, and then the resin and the design. So all of those have to just hit it out of the park in order for it to be a BAM. But even then, I have to think to myself, is this something that I really need in my collection? I have been actually since, and I know it's only a short time, but since the Chicago Pen Show, I've been really settled into my collection. There hasn't been anything that I've really added to my wish list. There isn't really anything on my wish list right now, actually. That's very new for me that I don't have anything in my wish list currently. But I think that also goes back to how I'm really trying to enjoy what I have, not get overwhelmed by every new release that's coming out. Being able to get comfortable in that means that something like a no spend isn't really necessary for me. And I know not everybody can speak to being in that place in their hobby, and that's absolutely okay. But I think the whole point of this conversation is really to ask whether a no spend really is helpful for you in this hobby. Should it be not a no spend? I know some people do a low spend, or some people have a specific stationary budget for the year, and that's what they're allowed to spend for the year. Or, for example, one of my rules was that I could only spend the affiliate credit that I've earned or funds from pens that I've sold, which was actually really helpful. Oh, Lucy's going to bark here shortly because my husband just came home. It was putting those rules into place and knowing that I had to really budget what my pen funds were. And also this year, just due to the increase in customs and tariffs for American products coming into Canada, I've really had to think about where I'm purchasing my fountain pen products from, which is why I've limited a lot of my purchases from makers and anything like that to when I'm at a pen show. And I think Leanne of Leanne Likes did something similar last year where she was only purchasing any stationery in person. And I think being able to do that has also really helped me dial back on doing a lot of online ordering of things. Aside from all of that, basically, for me, a no spend is not something that I will enter into now because I know it's not something that works for me. But for those who have had a no spend and find that it works for them, please let me know what's worked for you down in the comments below and why and how it's been helpful for you. The conclusion to this chatty video, or I feel like I'm on a soapbox here and I apologize for that, but I guess the conclusion to this video is more so to look at your spending habits, your financial situation, your buying, your tastes in fountain pens, and your reason why, and your intention. Ever since getting really into the planner community as well as the fountain pen community, I've always been a very intentional buyer, very intentional about what I am consuming. I went through a phase where, as part of the Happy Planner Squad, I was very, very lucky to receive so much product. But for me, that was very, very overwhelming. And it felt like it went against my minimalistic approach to consumption. Going back to, coming into fountain pens and really trying to limit my not my spend, but also how much I was bringing in terms of pens goes back to that principle in me of not wanting to consume too much. And that's just me. Like, basically, no matter where you are in this hobby, whether you're able to have a huge collection and have like the most expensive pens versus having a smaller collection of some of the lower priced pens, this hobby includes everyone. As long as you own a fountain pen, regardless of what the price was, you are good in this community. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, does a no spend work? And the very, inconclusive answer to that is it depends. It really depends. For me personally, no, but that is because I'm a lot more intentional about what I buy, when I buy it, and how and why I buy it. So I think at the end, this video is really meant to be some sort of reflection on this hobby and how we buy things and how we consume things. All right, I'm just opening up the conversation, and let me know your thoughts down below. All right, and that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching and listening to me go on about no spends and buying. I just think it's important, especially in a hobby like fountain pens where it can get expensive very, very quickly. I think it's really important to be cognizant of our spending and why we're spending, to also be aware that you should never compare how someone is spending and how quickly someone's bringing in pens into their collection, and never compare that to yourself, because every person is different. Every person is different. All right. Thank you all again so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe. Thanks again, and have yourselves a great day. What was I trying to say? Really? Okay, hold on.